So
So
thank you.
take it away.
Thank you, everyone, for inviting me to share this story. It certainly is not my story. It's more a blessing that I had the opportunity. But I love the Toledo region. I am TPS proud. I am a rocket. My career has included helping people relocate to the community, to visit the region, to become healthier, to become educated, and most recently in the last at least 10 of the 21 years that I've been in Springfield to lead, connect, grow, and serve through a dual role that I had with Leadership Toledo and the district. I work part time for Springfield Local Schools. I've always worked part time for Springfield Local Schools, and that is because I also had, when I began in the district part time, I had some private clients that I was working with events and special programming, and I enjoyed that so much that I did not want to step aside from that. I thought it kept me sharper at doing what I do. So I haven't had a whole lot of time for that lately because of the dual role that I portray until last June with Leadership Toledo, and I'll talk about that as we go. But the one thing that I'll tell you is that I never have wanted to leave this area. My travels took me all across the country and to foreign countries, and there just wasn't any place that made me feel the way that this region does, and that's because of the people, the phenomenal career opportunities that I've had. I was not able to have children, and when I started out in my career, I was looking for an opportunity to help others and migrated towards the not-for-profit world. When I found out I couldn't have children, I was looking for something that I could do to pass along the traditions and the wonderful relationships that I had within the field of education and my family, and not being able to give that to a child of my own. I looked for other children to do that with. So most of us can, within our careers, go back to a pivotal phone call or a meeting or a conversation that we had with a mentor or a leader, or it could have been a job interview. In my case, there was a phone call that came both in 1999 when Springfield Schools invited me to become part of the district. And the next one came when Springfield approached me and said, Kristina, our financial situation, we don't want to lose you. Would you stay if we only were able to provide you with a 3-day a week contract? And, those are tough questions to answer. Right until I got the call from Leadership Toledo that said, hey, can we have those other 2 days? We've been approached by the National Jefferson Awards, and they're looking at the Toledo region to help them determine what a youth award could look like. Now, at that time, the Jefferson Awards was about 30 years old. I don't know whether you're familiar with that, but the minute I heard about it, and it was portrayed as the Nobel Prize for Public Service for adults, and they wanted to see what it would look like for students. And Springfield was the 5th school in the nation that was selected to pilot a project. And very early on, all of the things that I wanted to do within my career, work with children, mentor, listen, and recognize, all came together through this little platform. It never has been about an award at Springfield, and I'll tell you, I've worked with Anthony Wayne School District too through Leadership Toledo, and it's never been about the award there either. It has always been about what can we do better, how can we learn, what good can we do more. And the kids say that those are not my words. What more good can we do? I mean, it's kids speak, but I understand what they were looking for. And a lot of it is at that time, and I apologize for that. I'm in my office and my phone keeps ringing. Jefferson Awards Multiplying Good listened to what Springfield and a few other high schools across the country said, and they said, don't make it about an award. What can we do to remove barriers? Because everybody in this chat this morning on this Zoom will go back. When you think of youth, and I want to take you back 10 years ago, our image of high school students was not always the most reliable. When we invited students to come in to our organizations for service projects. It was either through their parents or because they had to, because their school was requiring to do service, and they showed up that way. They were required to do something. What Anthony Wayne and what Springfield especially, and what I was able to do within the Toledo region through my position through Jefferson Awards, Now Multiplying Good, and Leadership Toledo, was remove the barriers and step out of the way and quit telling the students what it is that they wanted to do. Hopefully Travis will back me up on this. I've never gone to a group of students and said, hey, I've got this idea, let's do this. It was always, what do you want to do? How can I support you? What barriers are preventing you? What are you passionate about? Do you care about dogs? Do you care about cats? Do you care about senior citizens? Do you care about individuals with special needs? Do you care about, what do you care about? Who are your heroes? What is your passion? And when we started having those conversations, it became very clear that it was the adults that were standing in their way. And we were standing in their way by a particular phrase. And I think if I had all of you up right now and I could see your faces as the response to this, we all say, when we hear about a student that has done something remarkable, how many of you catch yourself saying, oh my gosh, the future is in great hands? Do you catch yourself that way? Because if you do, I'm going to tell you that almost every one of the students that I talk to, when they hear that phrase, they cringe. And they cringe because they feel as though you're not recognizing what they're capable of doing right now. The future may be in great hands, but so is today. And if I'm proud of one thing within the past 10 years of working with the youth in the way that I do, it's because we've changed the dialogue, both with adults and with the youth. We call our individuals young leaders of today. And we do that to challenge them to step away from the sideline, determine what they're passionate about and how they can make an impact today, right now, not in the future, but today. What skills do they have? What talent? And most of them, the skill and the talent that they have is time, and that is a treasure that we all appreciate. But supporting them and telling them that their time means something, it means a great deal to them. They feel validated, they feel empowered, and that's what my work has been with what we call the initiative, Students in Action, which is what Anthony Wayne and Springfield, when I was at Leadership Toledo, that is how we referred to the initiative. It's not a club, it's not an organization, you don't pay a fee to join it. In Springfield's case, every student during freshman mentoring hears that they're already a part of it. They can't opt out, they can't opt in, it's just who they are, what we do. And at Springfield, for me, as I watch it, it is a culture, and it is a culture within the region because of what I see when I look on the other side of this Zoom screen. And it is the individuals that are mentoring and modeling the very best of professionalism and of civics and citizenship and social responsibility and servant leadership. How we do that is by modeling the behavior. We volunteer, we chair a golf outing, and we don't do it by ourselves. We don't say, I'm going to do this. We have the conversation of what needs to be done and who has the best skill set to assist in every different aspect along the way. Now, that's easier as an adult to say than it is as a student, and I spend a lot of time with freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors that are taking 3 AP classes, a college credit plus class, working a job, trying to do 2 or 3 sports, and yet they tell me that they want to do a service project, and I look at them and I think, how are you going to do it? And there are some that I've said, how are you going to do this? How are you going to lead this? And they look at me with that teenager eye roll and say, well, you prioritize, Kristina. If it's important, you find the time. If it's important, and this is important to me, so please don't tell me why I can't. Help me, show me how I can. That is the leadership training. That is the servant leadership component that high schools across this region put into place. And I was honored clearly just to introduce it to the students at the 41 area high schools in the region, and they grew this. I'm not arrogant to think that I had really anything to do more than a conversation with them, but I am proud that we did change that dialogue and that many of us catch ourselves now and don't say things like, the future is in good hands, but we talk about the young leaders of today. Now, those are a lot of words, and they don't really give you any teeth to some of the things that we do. So I want to back up for a second, and I want to give you some stories. I want to talk to you about Krista Twigg, who is a now 14-year-old Jefferson Award finalist for the Toledo region, because when she was 12, she was driving with her mom from downtown Toledo, and she saw somebody that was homeless in a parking lot and said, "Mom, why is that person out on the corner? It's nighttime, aren't they cold?" And she started an initiative that now serves over 125 adults. They hand out Christmas care boxes in the parking lot across from the Cherry Street Mission downtown, just because she saw something that she didn't like. She didn't understand. She didn't want to continue. I can tell you about two little girls, one that's going into the 4th grade and one that's going into the 2nd grade, that heard about Toledo Police Patrol Officer Anthony Dia and said, "Well, if Daddy's not coming home, who's going to take care of his kids? Can't we do something?" And they set up a lemonade stand. Mm-hmm. I want to tell you about the thousands of students at Springfield High School and the middle school and the elementary schools that every year now collect brand new toys and donate them to Toledo Children's Hospital. It started out as a project in an AP psychology class and grew so significantly that the now IBID, ProMedica Children's Hospital, has to have a larger storage area to contain all of the toys that are donated just by Springfield kids. And we opened that up to students across the region 3 years ago. And that was the first year that we crossed 10,000 new toys. It was a little over 13,000 this year. Whether they're passionate or hospitalized children, or people that put their lives in danger, like our firefighters, or one of my favorites, on Thursday and Friday this week, the freshman mentoring program is going on in person, by the way, at Springfield High School, and I will be interacting with the students and showing them how they can take a t-shirt, a pair of blue jeans, an old piece of clothing, fit into either 2 or 3 little rags, either braid them or tie them, and make dog and cat pull toys for the Humane Society, because there are so many critters that are at the Humane Society waiting for their forever homes right now. Our kiddos feel helpless because there's not a whole lot they can do right now because of the pandemic. My initiative is to show them what they can do. I'm going to remove barriers. If you can't go out and serve, what can you do at home? What can you do while you're sitting at home watching the NHL playoffs or the NBA playoffs right now? Well, you can sit in front of the TV screen and you can braid cat and dog toys, and then you can donate them to the Humane Society, because they need them and they want them and they appreciate them, and the students need to hear that. We have spent so much time since March telling them what they can't do that I spend my time with them telling them what they can do. The very last organized service project, I'm going to close with that because I'd love to have you ask me some questions. The very last service project they did was on March 10th, and their last day of formal in-person school was March 13th. Springfield students from Whitmer High School's Career Tech Center and members of the Rotary Club got together with, at the time it was Sleep in Heavenly Peace, now it's Build More Beds, or Build Beds for Students. I know they changed their name. We built over almost 30 bed frames and collected so that the 900 homeless youth in the Toledo area that are without beds right now can have some place of their own to sleep. We talk to the students a lot about, but by the grace of God, this could be us, or maybe it is some of them that don't have that. We don't judge. We connect. Through service, we provide them with communication skills. Through service, using that as our foundation, we allow them to develop and grow their leadership skills and talents and learn that the world is a lot bigger than what they see within their high school hallways. So I am honored to have the role. I was surprised when I was nominated for the One in a Million award. I challenge everyone that is listening today that if you can think of someone, you can nominate the very deserving unsung heroes, ordinary people that you think are doing extraordinary things. Uh, Nominate them for the award. For me, I jokingly said on social media that just being nominated, when I opened the email to say that I had been nominated, I was struck because I spent so much of my time validating and nominating other people that I don't really I don't get or seek nomination. But just seeing that validation really does mean something. And I was honored and continue to be honored, and I was doubly thrilled when I learned from them that I was one of their million. That was fun. That was new, and that was fun. So, what questions can I answer for anyone?
Uh, I mean, it's not really a question. It's more of a statement. Because just it kind of it hit home because I came from my household was do it because I told you to. And I tried to kind of try to shift that when it came to like raising my two. I have an 8 and a 10-year old, and it would always sometimes it's frustrating when they ask why, pretty much for everything. But if they don't understand why they're being told that they need to do something or how they will learn from this, they're never going to understand it. And if you can kind of get them to understand why it's being done, they will put way more into it. So, and I've seen it. I've done it on my side of, you're going to do it because I said so, and they don't react well to that. So that's just kind of how that is.
There
Um,
are students that will walk through fire barefoot over a glass path for certain teachers or certain mentors just because they've asked or they've been, suggested. Somebody. I tell the seniors this a lot. Go up to a freshman in the hall and say, "Hey, I noticed you doing something good." I said, "You've just made that person's month. Trust me, they didn't know that somebody saw them doing whatever." But you're right. We kind of throw in, and what I didn't include is we kind of throw in a little competition factor. My favorite year, and it was probably, I want to tell you, it was 6 years ago. And we did this little cookie challenge with the area schools to bake cookies, and we divided the region up into 4 quadrants, and the regions chose organizations that they wanted to cookie at Christmas. And Anthony Wayne and Springfield decided to work together and cookie the 180th Fighter Wing. And I had called at the time one of the parents of our students, and I think it's Colonel John Cup. And I called him and I said, "John, the kids want to deliver. Can we come out and I'll bring some media and it'll be fun." He said, "Well, how many cookies do you think you have?" And I said, "Well, I think Springfield's got about maybe 4 or 5,000," which they did at the time. It was a week before. We delivered about 12,000 cookies to the base. If they would set up a table, it was like the loaves and fishes. They'd set up a table. The kids would come in. The Anthony Wayne kids brought over 7,000 cookies. Springfield was bringing them, and they're looking at me like, "What are we going to do with all of these cookies?" And it's like, you know what? You're here 24 hours, 7 days a week. Have a cookie for a long time. But the competition of what better to compete than doing good? It's not who can
Absolutely.
do good better. It's who can do good and get other people within the school to join you. So instead of 3 or 4 kids getting together and baking cookies or using the consumer family science classrooms at the schools, you know what Anthony Wayne did? This was great. They even involved their art club. They said, "If you guys can draw these pictures, you can take frosting and decorate the cookies." They were some of the most gorgeous cookies that were delivered to eat at the 180th Fighter Wing, and the students that delivered them be able to say thank you to their heroes that are out, putting their lives at risk or prepared to put their lives in risk. What better way to teach citizenship to a group of kids easily by baking cookies? And they were good. They looked good. They tasted good. And it has now become a tradition that the 180th expects the kids to bring cookies every year.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It
Um,
used to be, I think, that a lot of the private schools are really well known for their service and servant leadership or their spiritual programming. and public schools were not as well known for the things they were doing. But again, we changed that dialogue, and the 40 schools that I worked with, whether I was working with the Blissfield students or students at Otsego, or I mean, we really were represented with all of the schools, not just presenting awards to them, but recognizing the work that they were doing and empowering them to do good and do it more often. So Anthony Wayne's doing a great job. Springfield is doing a great job. TPS schools are doing an exceptional job. I'm thrilled to have been a part of that movement of kicking kids off the sideline, asking them to identify their comfort zone so we could knock them out of it a little bit.
That's fantastic. We got about 2 minutes left. Kristina still has the floor. Does anybody have any additional questions?
I actually have a question. So you had indicated that you talked to the students about their passion, and do you have a list of organizations that could use volunteers that you present to them, or how do you do that?
I don't present it to them. We have conversations about what are they passionate about, and then we try to fit with them. Again, they've got this wonderful tool that is live and interactive, and most of the time on their phone, where they Google, pets or, organizations that service pets, and lists come up. What I try not to do is the work for them. When I first started in my work, I found that a young voice calling saying, we want to work with you to serve, wasn't getting callbacks. Now I'm getting contacted by organizations asking, hey, can we have X number of your volunteers? And my response is always, that is always the same. Share with me what you need, when you need, and I will share that information, or at the time that we can ever get in person again, have you come out and tell the story. Because me telling the story is one thing, but your passion, talking about what it is that you do, is completely different, and pulling the students in that way. But I will not make the decision, because again, if I ask them what to do, there are students that will do what I ask them to do because that relationship is there. But if they come to me and say, Kristina, can you help me? I want to, oh good Lord. I can't get out of their way fast enough with that, because not only will that student come, but all of their friends and all of their friends and their friends. And let me close with this example. And I said this to Jason. The Jenna Cross Village at Wolf Creek is right in the Holland Springfield area, and the students wanted to do something, but they didn't know what to do. So rather than us deciding, hey, we're going to come over and do, we contacted and said, what do you need? And it was just the most bizarre response. They said, you know what, our maintenance department got cut, and we don't have the ability to hang Christmas lights anymore. Would your kids be willing to come and do something like that? And, my answer is going to be, I have no idea. But they always have election day off school, so we posted in front of them. And, the first year, I'm not going to lie, there were maybe 20, 25 kids, and we hung lights around a gazebo and a sign. And then the next year, there were 40. And then the next year there were 50, and this past year there were 74. 43 signed up, 74 showed up. And I mean, the pictures, the fun that they have in doing that, but not because they were told, and not because they have a certain number of service hours, because they're not required. We used to, I want to tell you, 12 or 13 years ago, they were required to do service hours. They're not now. When they were required to do service hours, we were proud when they came up with numbers of 65 or 6,600. Last year, had they gotten through the whole year, they were on target for 32,000. So
wow, that's awesome.
The formula works for Springfield. The work that Anthony Wayne with the Interact Club, and Deb Cheney and her work with Rotary and what she's doing, you have to put the right combination and formula together and respect what the individual schools are doing. You can't come in and say, here's the magic ticket. If you do this, the kids are going to do that. It won't work. You've got to respect who they are and what they care about, and then get out of their way.
Yeah. I pass those lights every day too. So not only was it great for the people that live there, but it's also great for the community.
And one of these days, I'm going to get those guys there so that they would help take them down too.
Yeah.
They put them up, but
Right.
taking them down.
That's always the hardest part, of taking them down. Getting them up looks fantastic, and then when you're like, I don't really want to take them down though. So,
Right.
Kristina, I want to say thank you so much for taking time to sit here and talk to us about the culture that you guys have kind of created. It's really inspiring to hear, just for the fact that it was the same way when I was in high school. It was always like, well, this is what you have to do. And telling a young person that they have to do something is kind of like mixing oil and water together. It's just not really going to work, especially this day and age. But to hear some of the stuff that people are doing and they're coming up with their own ideas is just fantastic. And seeing some of this stuff with, I mean, donating anything from socks to a pantry to the little libraries that are popping up, it's just fantastic to, especially with all the negativity that you see and you read with stuff in the media and social media. And you and I were kind of talking about it, like there's no person that has the most confidence when they're behind a screen and they can type whatever they want. So it's really good to see a lot of that positivity, and especially with what you're doing in the community. So I appreciate it. We have a couple minutes left, so again, I wanted to say thanks for your time, and we'll actually cut this, and we will actually air your presentation on our channels for social media. So with your permission, so if because I mean we're kind of have some live stuff going right now, but like I said, I'm really excited about your presence and what you're doing in the community, and I really want people to know what you guys are doing out there in Springfield Schools and Anthony Wayne and just what you're doing. So thank you for everything. Guys, I think that's pretty much it, unless we have some announcements of things that you guys have coming up. We do have a couple minutes left, so if you have any announcements that or anything that's coming up, let us know, and we'll try to get it out on all of our channels as well. So, and I think that's pretty much. So does anybody have anything that we have going on?